I've had a hard time explaining this before, but right now I'm in a flow state. My brain's working, the fog's gone. So allow me to articulate this real phenomena I've recently discovered on the internet. This new phenomena is called excess men. The idea is that throughout history and really throughout the human race's existence, it was normal for the majority of men, not some, not half, but the majority, so over 51% of all men, to die childless or without children. And because of that, apparently, this somehow implies that because of our society today that allows us to prevent the majority of death as a whole, at least beyond natural causes, that we have an epidemic of excess men, implying that we have more than we need. There's just one humongous flaw with this consensus. The flaw is that you can have too many men. The more men you have, the more people you have that can do labor, the more people that you have that can build cities, build roads, build society, the more potential you have to have absolute geniuses be born out of the populace who can forge and lead society towards a better and brighter future, at least technologically speaking. So I don't understand the consensus. Well, it turns out this is from a concept of, believe it or not, attractiveness. Apparently, the idea is that the majority of men that died were somehow subpar or ugly or unattractive males. And that because they died probably before they hit their 30s, they did not get the opportunity to become bitter that they were not chosen by female partners. However, we know that that's actually not how society works. The truth of the matter is that things like marriage, religion, traditions, family binding systems have been a part of pretty much all human history. In fact, that's probably what started human history, or rather, I suppose, ancient human tribalism. You see, it's illogical for an ancient society to make it as to where one man has access to all the women and none of the men beneath them gets access to women. Why, you might ask? It's pretty simple. If you have a society full of men who are not getting the things that they want and need, then they will cease to act in that society. They will withdraw. And that will happen to any size society, no matter how big nor how small. So if these ancient tribalistic societies that we talk about in the history books were more similar to one or few men having a harem of options of women, if that is the argument, then this would imply that the majority of men who did not get access to women simply just went along with it. However, we know holistically that that is not what would have happened. See, the reason there are so many men today who kind of teeter on being content, but also contemptful, is because we have a lot of distractions. We have hyper palatable sugar foods that are available for the masses. Anyone can go to a Casey's and get a box of donuts for relatively cheap. We have access to sugary drinks. That's another thing that can distract people. We have entertainment, bread and circuses on steroids, essentially. Video games, social media, YouTube, TV, movies, what else? Pretty much a never-ending supply of entertainment. In fact, there is so much and so many forms of entertainment that you don't actually have enough time on Earth to view it all. So as long as men have these items, they're content. Now, here's the thing. They're content, but they're not satisfied. Okay, we know that the majority of men are not happy with the way society is working. Okay, men want to get married. Men want wives. Men want kids. Now, before anybody jumps in here and says, oh, that's not true, men just want sex. That's not true. Okay, if men just wanted sex, they would just go ahead and pay for it. If men just wanted sex, they would just go ahead and find the path of least resistance to achieving that. But that's not what men want. Men want a life partner. Men want a relationship with one woman, and men want a legacy, and a legacy is primarily through children. So men want children, and men want wives, but they're not getting them. So if we were to apply that logic to an ancient society, which had no entertainment, had no marvelous technology today, had no ultra palatable sweets or foods, and probably actually was low on food for the most part, you know what would happen to those quote unquote ultra alpha males who had a harem of women? Well, for one, the quote unquote beta males would probably just go ahead and stage a coup and kill him. And then they would form a society with a distribution between the men and the women. That way, women get access to one man and vice versa. That makes more sense. That's what would happen, frankly. And the truth of the matter is that people that try and say otherwise, they're trying to communicate a false dichotomy. They're trying to trick you into thinking something that is not true. And it's towards a greater goal. The greater goal, of course, is to undermine the majority of the men that exist today in our society. They want these men to think that nobody wants them. They want these men to think that they serve no role, no purpose, other than to just show up to their wage jobs. Their wage slave jobs, in my opinion, that's the correct term. And ultimately, that their only role in life is to do what they are told to do. But the fact of the matter is that it's not true. That is not the case. Anyone who says otherwise, I am of the opinion that they need to take a serious look at the things that they have been consuming online and really ask the question of whether or not they should be propagating this information to others.